Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Stadium Showdown, your in-depth look at the future home of the Cleveland Browns. I'm Jeff Slauson. This week, we have an extended interview with Dennis Kucinich, former mayor of Cleveland, former congressman, and the man that is involved with multiple lawsuits with the city of Cleveland and with the Cleveland Browns themselves. So we wanted to get him on the show. We wanted to understand exactly what is going on with him in these lawsuits and, as a former mayor, how this all works. Again, this is going to be the entire episode, so let's hear from Dennis now. So thankful for Dennis Kucinich joining us today. Dennis, thank you so much. Former congressman, former mayor of Cleveland, now very much so involved in the current situation that is ongoing with the Browns, with the stadium. I want to start basic here if we can.
Sure.
Your connection, not only obviously to the current stadium, but to the ongoings that are happening. Just kind of give us that elevator pitch or where you stand with all of this.
Sure, Jeff, thanks for the invite to be here. And with me, this started back when the Browns left the city in 1995. It was a horrible time for all of us who have followed football in Cleveland and who love the Browns. And I happened to be in the state Senate. And so I thought, what could I do? And what I did as a state senator in Columbus, I wrote a bill, and that bill said, it was called the Taxpayers Protection Act. That bill said that if a team takes money, tax money, that they cannot just up and move. I didn't want to happen to Cleveland again what had happened, previously. So I said, I want to make sure that the city's protected and the taxpayers are protected. So I wrote the Taxpayers Protection Act, and that said, if you take money from the city, tax dollars from the people, you can't just up and move the team without two things happening. Number one, you give the city a chance to buy the team. Green Bay owns their team. Or number two, you give local investors a chance to come in and buy the team. Now, neither of those things have happened, by the way. So that's how I became involved in this. In 1996, so this is almost 30 years ago that I got this law passed.
Before we kind of advance here, I do want to hit on the Modell Law, as it's now been dubbed.
Yeah, it's called that.
There's a lot of vagueness in it that the Browns and the city, honestly, or frankly, are kind of attacking here, right? The vagueness around who has to make an offer, it has to be a legitimate offer, the vagueness around how much notice, things like that. When you worked on this law, got this passed for the protection of basically the people of Cleveland, right? So a team wouldn't go up and leave. Did you ever imagine that it would get to this point where we have the law not only being picked for some of the gray areas of their vagueness, but essentially changed in the middle of the night and then adjusted to allow for a new Brown stadium?
Jeff, let me point out that this very law that I wrote helped to save the crew for Columbus, Ohio. And it saved the crew so that a guy by the name of Haslam could come and buy it. I mean,
he named the law.
He knows the law.
He named it when he was
right. And that law actually is very clear. You take money from the taxpayers and you're going to try to move. You got to give the city an opportunity to buy the team or local investors. Now, the city has never pressed that point. That's one of the concerns that I have and one of the reasons that I'm in court with the city of Cleveland right now. And as far as the change in the law that you mentioned, astonishing that the state of Ohio could come up with $600 million for an IFCOM stadium and then say, well, you don't have any recourse, we changed the law. Actually, you cannot change a law that then affects people that have already paid money. I mean, it's a contract. That contract is still good. That contract was a contract with the people of Cleveland as well. You take the money, you have an obligation to give the people of Cleveland a chance to either buy the team through the city or get local investors to do it. That's what that law is about. And nothing the state can do can change that. It's actually a constitutional principle in the contracts clause in the U.S. Constitution. So they can't change that. The old law applies to Cleveland right now. The law that I wrote in 1996 and got passed by the legislature is still in effect when it comes to that stadium on the lakefront.
The back and forth that has existed with this, when they changed that law, overnight, which is literally what happened. Was that what inspired you, I guess, or potentially forced your hand to make you feel like you had to get more involved in this and you had to be involved in the lawsuits? I mean, what brought you to this point where you now have yourself trying to get involved, not trying to, but you were forced into one of them, but you understand what I'm saying here.
Yeah,
Legally, did you feel like you were forced into this or at least
no,
pushed into it,
no,
or what drove you to
no. I've
get
been,
more involved?
I've look. I wrote the law in 1996. I had hoped that there'd never be a situation where there'd be an event that would occur that the law would have to be enforced. And so when I first heard rumblings about the potential of the Browns moving, I wrote a letter to the city's law director. And I was prepared back in October of 2024 to file a lawsuit at that time uh, on behalf of the taxpayers of the city of Cleveland. And I received various assurances from the law department. I wrote 3 different letters. Any of the assurances that I received from the law department never held up. They obviously had their own plan to clear the lakefront. Jeff, the way I look at it, they're getting ready to exchange an NFL franchise for a hole in the ground because there's no guarantees of what's going to happen to that land. Uh, and just some kind of notion about we're going to have a Chicago type lakefront. We have an NFL team there. Do you know how many cities are trying to get NFL teams? There's at least 10 cities in the U.S., plus London wants an NFL team. Germany wants an NFL team.
Toronto would take one.
Thank you. Toronto's another one because they have, Major League Baseball. We have a team. Why are we so ready to get rid of it in downtown? And the other thing is the effect of the team leaving downtown, what the effect would be on downtown Cleveland and Cleveland generally.
You were at the council meeting this week, right?
I was.
The mayor seems eager to get this pushed through. Council seems a lot more hesitant. I am of the opinion in this situation that the Browns have a large incentive to remove that stadium from downtown. If they're going to be building Brook Park, why would you leave a potential plot that's going to open up an opportunity for concerts, things like that?
100%, Jeff. You hit it right on the head. But think about this, okay? Let's first of all think about what the value of that stadium is right now. I've done various comparisons. It's an estimate, but right now, the stadium, which was opened up in 1999, 26 years old, that stadium would be worth about $325 million. It's still in good shape. There's stadiums that last 50 years or more. So why would the Browns owners want to tear it down? You just said it. Because they want competition. But let's get real about this because it's not only that they want to tear the stadium down so they don't have competition, but they'll be taking business away from Rocket Arena. They'll be taking business away from any venue in the area. They're just going to be like a vacuum cleaner sucking up the business, and that's going to hurt our local economy. It's a monopoly move. It's not just the business of sports and concerts, it's the business of retail. You think Westgate, you think of Crocker Park, you think of what's left of Parmatown, just they're all going to be damaged by this move. This isn't about city planning. This is about a capitulation to economic interests that don't care about the city of Cleveland. They could care less. They've taken what they can and are taking what they can. Jeff, you're one of the few people who's actually raised this issue about why do they want to tear down a stadium that's usable. It's an economic move. It's a monopoly move. But in addition to that, check out the value of the land. Any real estate person is going to tell you that lakefront land is worth at least $1 million an acre. The site where the stadium is, they're talking a total of 50 acres. It's 50 million there. Burke Lakefront Airport, 450 acres, 450 million there. So let's start doing the math. 325 million, 50 million for the lakefront land where the Browns Stadium is, 450 million where Burke Lakefront Airport is, plus the value of the lawsuit. You got to remember, the Browns broke a lease. They signed a lease which said, we're going to talk to anybody about moving. They did. They broke the lease. Now we know that a move out of downtown Cleveland is going to cost at least $30 million a year, based on an extensive report that was done on economic impact. We also know that the Browns pay about $11 million a year in taxes. So that's $41 million. When you add it all up, there's over $1 billion of assets that are at stake here. And the city wants to just give it away. The mayor wants to give it away. They said for $100 million. It's much less than $100 million. This thing about the Browns are going to pay the city to tear down a stadium. Suppose you had a renter and they were through renting and they said, I got a great idea. I want you to tear your house down. This is the craziest thing I've seen. And I have to also say, and I don't say this with any delight, this thing is corrupt from top to bottom. This is one of the most corrupt deals I have ever seen in my time in Cleveland, and I've seen some pretty corrupt ones. You have to remember, you're looking at the guy who, as mayor of Cleveland, saved the municipal electric system from a takeover in what was one of the dirtiest deals ever in Cleveland's history. This thing was right up there with the Muni Light deal. And, whether it's inexperience on the part of leaders, the desire to curry favor with billionaires, whatever, it's wrong, wrong, wrong. The Browns should not move. We should keep the team there. We should keep developing downtown, support our businesses downtown, make downtown a magnet, and don't go building out in other places, which will lead to downtown Cleveland being damaged greatly.
Can we talk about your involvement with these lawsuits, specifically the one against the Browns and the
Well,
city?
yeah, when I saw that the city wasn't being responsive to my concerns about keeping the team in Cleveland and exercising that option that I put in there, that if a team gets money from the city in terms of tax dollars and they decide to move, the law says you got to give the city a right to buy the team or investors the ability to buy the team. City never exercised that. So I filed a suit back on August 29th of 2025 that raised, it was a 650-page lawsuit, by the way.
I read like 10 pages, if that makes. Yeah, I couldn't get through all 600 pages.
You're probably ahead of most people.
Best, yeah.
But it's about this much. And I documented everything because you just don't do this thing lightly. I documented every reason why the team shouldn't move and why the city has to be careful to protect this as an asset. We're an NFL city. We have history here. And so I filed that suit in August, and that's still pending before the court. But when the city named me in their term sheet in the deal that they made with the Browns, supposedly over 2 Coca-Colas, right, they then made me a party as far as myself and my attorney are concerned. So I filed for an intervention in a lawsuit between the city of Cleveland and the Browns that the city is trying to settle right now. And if the court lets me in, I'll carry forward on behalf of the taxpayers in either case. I'm a Cleveland taxpayer. I still live in the city. And Jeff, you have to remember, I was a city councilman here, clerk of the Cleveland Municipal Courts, mayor of Cleveland, state senator who wrote the bill, member of the United States Congress for 16 years, and I might say, chair of a prime congressional investigative subcommittee that investigated the subprime meltdown, had Wall Street leaders stand in front of me, raise their right hand and lie. You know, I didn't fall off a Christmas tree. I know exactly what's going on here. The people of Cleveland are being cheated out of hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more. And the city has an obligation to step up for them, but apparently that's not happening. If the court lets me in, I'll carry forward on behalf of the taxpayers.
The city of Cleveland has asked a judge to throw that case out. Obviously, they want this to go away because they want to take the paycheck and they want to be able to, quote unquote, move on with the waterfront here. The Browns would love nothing more than to do that. We have want to be on the record. We have asked multiple times for an interview with the Browns, with those that are involved with the development on this. They have yet to get back to me, which, we are still hoping to speak with them, and hopefully after our interview with you, they would like to respond. When it comes to the involvement between the Browns and the city of Cleveland, and I would like to say Cuyahoga County, Chris Ronayne has been very vocal about not wanting the team to move. It seems Mayor Bibb did slightly a 180 here, but city council is not having it. You've been in politics for a long time. When you have a situation where you have a private entity and then public entities very vocally feuding and being very vocally against it, what does this do for the actual discussions that are taking place here? Is it just name your price and we can get out of this? How do the politicians proceed? How should the people perceive this when they see how much money's being thrown out and how people are changing their minds over a week?
People should perceive it as a sellout. That's why I'm raising my voice. There's a point at which you say, stop thief. I don't say this lightly. This thing is a crooked deal from Jump Street. And I know one when I see one. Now, I wish that I didn't have to be here to challenge what's going on. Because what should have happened is the Browns should have respected the lease, never talked to anyone about moving. That way they wouldn't have been sued. What should have happened is when the Browns, when they did violate their lease, the city should have continued to pursue them in court and never talked about settling because of what was at stake. What should have happened is the city should have demanded that start taking offers and put the money together to buy the team. That's what should have happened. Green Bay has 573,000 owners, okay? You can't move that team for anything. And I wrote that law almost 30 years ago to make sure we'd never be in this position again. How in the world can this happen to Cleveland twice in a period of 30 years where we're talking about losing our team again? This is like, the movie Groundhog's Day. Here we are again. But I will tell you, I'm not, let me show you something. I'm an old third string quarterback, okay, from St. John, Kansas, okay? And I love football. And I'm a football fan and I'm a Browns fan. But I'll tell you something. I know how to call a play if there's something wrong going on the other side. And there's something wrong going on the other side, which is why I filed a lawsuit, why I filed to intervene, and why I'm hopeful that I'll be able to carry the ball forward for the taxpayers of the city of Cleveland, who at this point are being cheated. And I'm not going to stand by and watch that happen without a fight.
And we did reach out to the city of Cleveland for comment on some of the things that Dennis Kucinich said. And here's what they had to say in its entirety. They said, and I quote, "Unfortunately, Mr. Kucinich doesn't realize that the state legislature drastically changed the Waddell law earlier this year. There is no legal option to keep the Browns past 2029. The legislature's shredding of the Modell Law, in addition to also giving Haslam Sports Group $600 million, left us with two choices: work towards a settlement to secure some sort of compensation, or keep fighting a now weak case in court that likely would result in the city receiving nothing. We chose the logical option, as we believe $100 million is better than $0. This settlement will end the conflict and open up the lakefront for all Clevelanders. Hopefully Mr. Kucinich can appreciate that. The last bit of my interview with Dennis Kucinich right after this break.
Dennis, I only have a couple more questions with you. We are so beyond appreciative of the time that you gave us today. With the look forward on the lawsuits that you are at least involved with, honest opinion, do you think that they are going to do anything? We have seen these lawsuits come. They've been delayed. They've had to go back to discovery. We've seen these lawsuits be thrown out. We've seen these lawsuits be debated whether they belong in state court or federal court. Your position on where you stand, do you feel like this will actually lead to anything?
Well, I've got the Mendenhall firm that's working on this, and their specialty is taxpayer lawsuits. My attorney there is Logan Trombley, and we have, they feel very strong about this. They feel this is really as good a case as they've seen. And so I'm confident that if we get a fair shake here, that we'll be able to intervene. And if I am able to intervene, I will intervene not on behalf of myself, but on behalf of the people of the city of Cleveland and taxpayers who have put over $570 million invested into that stadium with the actual building of it and the repairs over the years. This just isn't fair, period. That is Cleveland's team, and to be able to have a mayor just want to give it away because he's got some idea of what's going to happen on the lakefront. I'll say it again, trading an NFL team for a hole in the ground on the lake. I won't buy it.
The last question I have for you. I hear it all the time. It comes into my mailbox every single week we do this show, which is Brook Park is only a mile outside of the city of Cleveland city limits. Why does it matter that they move there? Why is it such a big deal? What is your response to those folks that believe that it doesn't matter if the Browns are in Cleveland or in Brook Park, that they're still in Northeast Ohio, and that it's fine? What is your response to people like that?
Well, let's first of all look at this from the standpoint of a Cleveland taxpayer. The Cleveland taxpayers put in $573 million into that stadium. That stadium's still a good stadium. That's number one. Number two, the Browns broke their lease. There has to be justice done. Number three, they're talking about not just moving the stadium, they're talking about developing the lakefront in a way that's giving investment rights away, prime land, okay, and included with that certain tax breaks to develop on prime land. It doesn't make any sense at all. So this, first of all, is to protect the taxpayers. Now, beyond that, what assurance if that project is built in Brook Park? And I love Brook Park. I represented it in the Congress. People there are the salt of the earth. A lot of them are former auto workers. They built the town. How do you know they won't be cheated? How do you know their property values aren't going to go this way as a result of all the traffic and all the noise? It's a bedroom suburb, but it's not going to be that anymore. I don't know that discussion has really happened. But my first concern is, what do we have now? We have an NFL franchise on the lakefront. And once that goes, you go to Brook Park. Brook Park will not have the same guarantees. If the owners want to, just say, well, the deal fell through, we'll move it to someplace else. Okay, you can move to Columbus, let's say. This is not just about football. It's about the taxpayers. This is about the future of the city of Cleveland, the future of downtown, the businesses downtown. I have to tell you, and I'll say it again, Jeff. I've seen a lot of crooked deals in my life, and I've been able to stop a few. This ranks up with some of the worst I've ever seen, and I don't care. Maybe people have the best intention, but if you're going to shake somebody's hand, you better check how many fingers you have when you bring your hand back. And I am unalterably opposed to this move. The Browns ought to stay in Cleveland, and that lakefront land is a good place for a football stadium. It's worked for so many years, and we should not, under any circumstances, permit that team to go. And I'm going to keep fighting it as long as I can.
We'd like to thank Dennis Kucinich for sitting down with us for that interview. I'd also like to stress once more that we did reach out to the Cleveland Browns for comment on the things that Dennis Kucinich had said, and as of this story airing, they had not gotten back to us. We will not have an episode next week. The following week, we will have our latest episode available, so we will see you all then. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson with 19 News. Have a great day and a great night. We'll see everybody in a few weeks. Happy Thanksgiving.